Welcome to the show. Let's begin. As always with this show, we need to begin by presenting COVID-19 numbers in case you missed the latest from your local news. So, before we get into that, here's the very latest. There's 4,000 vaccines administered in 2 days. There's the phases. There's the phases and the operational schedule. This is the statistics. State cases, we're now up to 32,000 cases. State two new cases, health district reporting 257, which brings up now to 259. Confirmed positive, 264, 69, suspect positive, 2284, 22,814, 8246, probable cause, suspect, getting close to 1,000. 5 new cases, makes the total out to 595. Hospitalized, 4861. Carolina Hospital, 179. ICU, 59, which is now, and we're now up 200 cases over 28,000. And the state of California, in Los Angeles County, California, is getting close to 1 million cases. Sorry about that. In which, in this case, if it were to continue, the county could just be able to just be shut down, and that can be a big issue here. Sorry about that. It's a very big issue here. An issue that can very much be a huge problem. So again, like I've always said, you need to wear your masks every single day of the week, no matter what. If you're going out shopping, if you're going to go do your shopping, if you're going to go electronic shopping, if you're going to go to Walmart, H-E-B, going to go out to eat, what you need to be doing is making sure. Just make sure that you know what you're doing. Wearing your masks at all times. If you have a certain medical condition like asthma where you cannot wear a mask, and they ask you, where's your mask? You need to politely let them know, hey, I have a medical condition, I cannot wear a mask. If they still refuse service, you need to leave. Don't be sitting up there arguing with them saying, yeah, but I have an medical condition. Yes, I understand you have a medical condition, but don't be arguing them back and forth. I don't need this happening a lot. Especially seeing it all happen. Also, work mandates you wear a mask. If you're working from home, then you cannot wear a mask. Also, Let me tell you. Also, let me tell you something right now. I don't think schools will not allow you to be coming into school without a mask of a medical condition because they're probably strict about it. And with schools, let's give you the very latest on schools. One of the schools in Oasis County is going back to remote learning because of a positive case. So probably the biggest thing ever you need to do right now, if you're going to ever start going somewhere, have a mask with you at all times. If you lose your mask, have a spare. If you don't, and 6 feet. That is the biggest thing ever. You need to stay 6 feet apart. No ifs, ands, or buts. And it ain't no joke. Not many people are staying 6 feet. I've seen people wear masks, but no one is staying 6 feet. Even if you're wearing a mask, it's going to help you. It's going to help you protect. But no one is doing the 6 feet part. No one's doing anything. There's signs, but no one follows those signs. Alright, here. We're going to take a break. Coming up, we're going to explain to you, we're going to explain President Trump's, we're going to explain to you the, coming up. Sorry. We're going to take a break. Up next, we're going to explain to you the second impeachment of Donald Trump and how the impeachment process is explained. We'll give you West Channel 3 and CBS News. All that when we come back. Welcome back. As you know, President Trump was being impeached the second time. The first time he was impeached was because giving out codes. The second time for the riot that happened last week. If you're still confused, here's my good friend Mike Gillespie from Facebook.
The impeachment process as laid out in the Constitution is relatively simple. The House votes to impeach, the Senate conducts a trial. But, as with most matters of politics in our current climate, none of it can be considered routine. The impeachment process is spelled out in Article 2, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution. It states that the President and other government officials shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. It all begins with the House of Representatives, where articles of impeachment require approval by just a simple majority, 218 of the 435 House members. The current charge against President Trump, incitement of insurrection. Voting yes means that a House member believes there is enough evidence to go to trial. That trial would be held in the Senate with the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court presiding, and where a 2/3 majority vote is required to convict and remove a president. That's 67 of 100 senators. Now, the catch here is that if a Senate trial were convened, Donald Trump would likely already be out of office, as the presidential inauguration is 1 week from today. So why move ahead? Well, beyond the stain of impeachment, there is an argument to be made that a conviction could keep Donald Trump from running again. 3 presidents have been impeached: Andrew Johnson in 1868, Bill Clinton in 1998, and Donald Trump in 2019. In all 3 cases, the Senate failed to convict. And another history note, only 8 government officers have been impeached and actually removed from office. All of them were federal judges with lifetime tenure.
Thanks, Mike. So now you get the message here. And hopefully by the time the president gets impeached, he could not run again. So I hope that within the times, if 2/3 to the side, President Trump will be impeached. And next week, Joe Biden will be front and center in the inauguration. And I really hope that Joe Biden can do great things for our country. Especially updates on the vaccine. Now here's the latest from CBS News on that same thing.
Good evening and thank you for joining us tonight. The sitting president of the United States, Donald Trump, has been impeached for a second time. 10 Republican members of the U.S. House broke with their party late today, joining 222 Democrats to approve a single article of impeachment. The charge, inciting the insurrection at the Capitol 1 week ago, an attack that left 5 people dead, dozens injured, and American democracy wounded. Tonight, the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, says she will immediately send the article of impeachment to the Senate so that the president can stand trial. But Mitch McConnell, the Republican leader in the Senate, says that won't happen before President-elect Joe Biden is inaugurated next Wednesday. And even as Congress debated the president's involvement on the attack of the Capitol, they were being surrounded by armed members of the National Guard, protecting them based on what's being called a high-level threat. Now, sources tell CBS News tonight that investigators are now sifting through raw intelligence suggesting that armed extremists may be plotting to block bridges and trains into the city. So as we come on the air, President Trump is finally responding to all of this. In a new video produced by the White House, he says that he ordered the heightened security in D.C. and that he condemns last week's violence, a full week after it happened. But he is still not accepting any responsibility for what happened. Well, there's a lot of breaking news on this historic day. Our team is standing by. CBS's Nancy Cordes is going to lead off our coverage tonight. Good evening, Nancy.
Here's Nancy.
Nora, this historic bipartisan vote took place in the same chamber where 1 week ago today, lawmakers were cowering and praying for their lives. A few moments ago, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi signed the impeachment resolution, which will now go to the Senate for a trial.
Yes.
On this vote, the ayes are 232.
Voting in a Capitol that has now become a fortress, House members impeached the 45th president for putting them in harm's way 1 week ago today as they were trying to ratify the results of the election.
This Capitol was stormed. People died because of the big lies that were being told by this president.
If inciting a deadly insurrection is not enough to get a president impeached, then what is?
The vote comes 13 months
Donald John Trump.
after President Trump's first impeachment,
for high crimes and misdemeanors,
where he was charged with abuse of power and obstruction of Congress as part of a scheme to pressure Ukrainian leaders.
Donald Trump is a living, breathing, impeachable offense.
He is unrepentant. Congress must act for the good of this country.
Unlike the last impeachment, this time 10 Republicans voted yes.
There was a domestic threat at the door of the Capitol, and he did nothing to stop it.
I am not choosing a side, I'm choosing truth. It's the only way to defeat fear.
Today's article of impeachment accuses Mr. Trump of sparking an insurrection, citing not just his comments last Wednesday,
"These people are not going to take it any longer,"
but also his false claims about his loss
"We won the election by a landslide."
and his refusal to concede.
That was a rigged election.
House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy didn't deny any of it.
The president bears responsibility for Wednesday's attack on Congress by mob rioters.
But he and other Republican members insisted now is not the time to punish President Trump.
They know that it is impossible for the Senate to remove him before his term expires. So what is the point?
I'm not saying the president didn't exercise poor judgment, but to criminalize political speech by blaming lawless acts on the president's rhetoric is wrong, Madam Speaker, and a very dangerous precedent. The criminals who stormed the Capitol that day acted on their own volition. They are responsible for their actions.
If we want unity, this is not the way.
Democrats rejected that argument.
Never as a criminal defense attorney did I say, "Judge, yeah, my guy completed the armed robbery, but let's heal now."
No, there was accountability. There was accountability then. There should be accountability now.
And so the battle moves now to the Senate. Speaker Pelosi has already named 9 impeachment managers who will serve as prosecutors in the trial to come. Senate Leader Mitch McConnell said today he will not bring the Senate back early, meaning the trial could start just as President-elect Biden is taking office. If 2/3 of the Senate votes to convict, then the president would be barred from seeking higher office again. But this could all consume the Senate for weeks. President Trump's first Senate trial, Nora, lasted 21 days.
Nancy Cordes on Capitol Hill, thank you.
As Nancy said, the trial will not happen until after Joe Biden, President-elect Joe Biden's inauguration, which is going to happen next week. And if that after that, if they decide to impeach, he can no longer run for the election. And mind you, he was impeached twice for the Ukraine incident and now for this. And during that time, there was a large arsenal of weapons from the Capitol rioters.
Investigators are still rounding up suspects from the Capitol riot while chasing down new threats.
And again, here's the latest from CBS News when we come back. So tonight we're talking about the riot that happened and why President Trump was impeached twice. Now, before the break, I told you about why the House is not going to vote to do the trial, and I told you before the break, they're not going to do the trial until after Joe Biden's inauguration. And it's like, okay. But I hope that he is not the power of the president anymore. I hope that Joe Biden orders that wall to be torn down. Period. Going back to the riots. Now, they were weapons. And many arrests are happening. Here again is the latest from CBS News.
Obtained by CBS News.
New threats. And the FBI sent out some chilling advice to officers before they make those arrests. Here's CBS's Jeff Pegues.
An FBI bulletin obtained by CBS News says large caches of weapons like this one have been recovered from suspects' homes, and that police should consider use of SWAT techniques when arresting protesters who were photographed in body armor. Prosecutors released evidence against protester Lonnie Kaufman, who allegedly had an assault-style rifle, Molotov cocktails, and a target list in his truck near the Capitol. Today, the FBI arrested Robert Packer, the man seen wearing a Camp Auschwitz shirt. This Idaho man, Josiah Colt, seen hanging from the Senate chamber balcony, has been arrested and charged with violent entry. And the FBI used an armored vehicle to arrest this man in New York for making threats to travel to Washington with weapons. While the roundups continue, the FBI is investigating coordination among attackers. Videos showing people acting together to breach the Capitol and attack police, including this line of men moving up the steps wearing military-style vests and helmets. Democrat Mikey Sherrill, a combat veteran, accused some of her congressional colleagues of working with the demonstrators.
Those members of Congress who had groups coming through the Capitol that I saw on January 5th, a reconnaissance for the next day, I'm going to see that they're held accountable.
Sherrill said that she has passed on her information to law enforcement. Harry Litman is a former U.S. attorney.
It's mind-boggling. I mean, the sitting congressman may actually have helped insurrectionists storm the Capitol. That's Benedict Arnold territory.
And late today, Olympic swimmer Cleet Keller was charged with violent entry for his participation in the rioting. A large number of weapons and explosives were found around the Capitol last week, and the question that investigators tonight are trying to answer is, were they going to be used as part of some coordinated plot? Today, FBI Director Christopher Wray held a conference call with police agencies across the country, reminding them to remain vigilant as they face a number of potential threats. Nora.
Jeff Begaze, thank you.
As Jeff said, those weapons were sweeped. And now the National Guard is saying 20,000 troops to D.C. over these threats. What does that mean? Here again is the latest from CBS News.
We're here. Much of the nation's capital is locked down with a huge security presence, with authorities very concerned about new threats of violence. We get more now from CBS's Chris Van Cleve.
Tonight, 2,000 National Guard troops are securing the Capitol, inside the Grand Halls and outside along the perimeter. Some armed and authorized to defend themselves, a striking image reminiscent of the Civil War. Up to 20,000 could be deployed to protect Washington, D.C. a week ahead of Joe Biden's inauguration, nearly 4 times as many troops as are currently in Iraq and Afghanistan. The Defense Department is warning the threat level for violence is very high. Concerned it could come as soon as today. How real do we think the concern is?
I do think it's real, but I think oftentimes law enforcement is put in the position that, regardless of if it's unverified, in the wake of the events of last week, they've got to take these threats seriously.
CBS News has learned the mounting concern is based on a flood of raw intelligence, including unverified reports extremists may be monitoring police movements and potentially heavily armed groups intent to disrupt D.C. Targets could include bridges leading into the city and trains. Air marshals are being deployed to more flights into D.C., and major airports across the country are increasing security measures like upping police presence. Across town, Washington looks to be bracing for a hurricane, buildings boarding up. Additional security barriers have been added outside of the vice president's residence. Fencing and roadblocks are already in place as security ramps to the maximum ahead of the inauguration.
We have asked Americans not to come to the Washington, D.C. event, but instead to participate virtually. And we know that is the right choice and the best way to keep everyone safe.
After that message from D.C.'s mayor, Airbnb announced it was canceling reservations for stays in the D.C. area during the inauguration. Here at the Capitol tonight, it is armed National Guard on patrol, and this isn't the only fence intended to keep people back. If you go another block up the street past the military vehicles here, you'll hit another blockade, another barricade, fence line, more police, more National Guard. Nora?
This city is shut down. Chris Van Cleve, thank you.
So as Chris said, the
investigators are still rounding up suspects from the Capitol.
As Chris Van Cleve said, the Capitol's being shut down. If you're going to attend a thing in Washington, just do it virtually. Tighten security, and if you're thinking about, don't be thinking about doing that. I'm criticizing you guys that decided to go do this. That'd be like criticizing a teachers union for not doing their jobs correctly. So we'll be the very latest as this evolves. And we'll be back in just a moment. Finally tonight, there is going to be new hope for Jeopardy! After the death of Alex Trebek, Ken Jennings was the very first one to guest host Jeopardy! But there's 3 other people who will be joining as guest hosts each week. Next week I think will be Katie Couric. Next week will be Mayim Balak, and 60 Minutes Bill Whitaker. Each week. So I think Katie Couric will go on next week. The other week will be Miriam, and Bill Whitaker will go on the other week. So I hope you'll tune in to DVR's Jeopardy! And I hope they'll find a new placement, a brand new host. Coming up tomorrow, I have planned to give you guys a little dance of the lemons. Topic about how it's impossible to usually get fired. But I'm going to save that for you tomorrow. Tomorrow. And why that is not limited to public schools. That's tomorrow. Also, what Nora O'Donnell reflects on Washington. That's all tomorrow. That's all going to be coming up on Friday. And again, we'll give you the very latest as this story progresses on the Washington mob And if you want to see the very latest, tune in to local news. And if you haven't, tune into this broadcast for the latest updates of COVID-19 and the Washington mob. That's all for this edition of Give Me a Break Wednesday. We'll see you again in a couple days for Give Me a Break Friday. Have a good night, everyone. Stay safe and each other. Good night.